Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored and pleased to sit here. Amongst Marwan's work, I call exhibitions like that a very, very concentrated overlook about all his very diverse steps of development of his works and artistic developments, which in Marwan's case are always very, very thoughtful and very, very organic in all its contradictions. It's not yet very clear if Marwan and I will talk to you in German or in English, but maybe we are switching, and if he's talking German, I'm translating. Okay, Marwan.
Okay.
Tell us a bit about when you came to Germany and why, when you were so young still, with 23 years, living in Damascus. What was it that you would like to see and to discover in Europe?
Well, it was by accident, because my aim was Paris at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was impossible because of the war, Canal War. So I waited 2 years, and then I have a friend in Berlin. He said, come to Berlin, and maybe it is possible from Berlin to Paris so far. And then Berlin became my second Damascus.
But isn't it strange that you, at that time, I still think that you left a paradise, at least the paradise of your youth, to find another paradise in Paris within the arts, and ending up in a disastrous town, completely still destroyed by World War II, building it up, and it looked like many cities like Aleppo look today. How could you feel at home in such a devastated city, where the people have difficulties to find housings, to live, to make their life, and being isolated in the midst of the East German Democratic Republic?
Well, wrote that time, Marwan found his Damascus in Berlin.
Yeah.
And it is very simple sentence, but it is very rich, really, to find my Damascus in Berlin. And it's very, very good sentence.
Okay, Eberhard Rothers was the founding director of the Berlinische Galerie when I became his successor many years afterwards. And Rothers was the man who wrote the first article on Marwan when he had his first one-man show in a private gallery in Berlin. And in that article, he said Marwan found his second Damascus, his own Damascus, in Berlin, referring definitely to the story of Saulus and who became Paulus in Damascus. So what means that Saulus in Damascus had an enlightening and recognized reality in the world and the spiritual world. And the brutal provocation of the city of Berlin led Marwan to a similar shock and spiritual invention of paintings. What was so astonishing is when he started his studies in Berlin, he came to one of the great masters of abstract painting, abstract expressionist painting, Hans Trier, who was a very noble and educated person, speaking Arabian, for example.
Through me.
Rumi? Through you.
Yeah.
Oh. But when he left the university, he started to paint figurative. How did it come? Tell us. And you see some examples downstairs in the exhibition hall with early figurative paintings. Tell me about that, Marwan.
Well, it is very simple, because I got rid of being model this or that or so. I wanted to achieve myself, very simply, and I did it in this way. Mm-hmm. Yes, this figurative the first time, yes.
What's so strange is that the young painters of Marwan's generation in Berlin had the same idea to start figurative painting. you know all that from your private life. That at a certain point you have to get in distance to your parents and to look for your own way. And mostly you're referring to your grandparents, which in Germany and in art means get rid of abstract painting, which had no meaning in this cruel world, which was the language of freedom of the American world, but didn't fit to the European or even German world. So they referred to their grandfathers, artistic grandfathers, German expressionism. There they had the expressive color, expressive gesture, but figurative painting. And it's strange enough that famous painters like Baselitz and Schönebeck did that, and Marwan did it as well, but he had not the German tradition out of which he came. He had no reason to protest against his parents' generation. But his aim, as he said, was to find himself. All the people in Berlin had to find themselves after Nazi Germany and after the horrors of the war and the concentration camps. Everybody had to find its identity, so it fit perfectly that Marwan, coming from a foreign world into a foreign world, had to look for his identity as well. Do you think that the loss of your home and all these memories of your childhood, of colors and flowers and smells and birds singing, that, that this helped you to survive in Berlin? Hat dir das beim Überleben in Berlin geholfen?
Of course. But I wanted to find myself very simple, without any communication, you see. And I started with these faces and so on. It's coming through a dream when I see my head or my face in the face landscape of the world.
Yeah.
Yes. And started with this bright paintings with the face starting and so on.
Yes, there was a very original or credible development from these strict kind of surrealistic figurative paintings towards an image which concentrated on the human face and show all the drama of existence through the way of painting in a face. But as you can see in the early works downstairs, at that time, with the early figurative painting, color was still strictly bound to depict a human being in surrealistic situation. But to use the face as the field of expression or even battlefield sometimes, you need to have a use of color which is totally independent from the depicting image. And to learn this, there was a very important step in 1973, which means he came in 1957 to Berlin, so he was in his mid-30s when he was able to make this step, because in 1973 he got a grant to live for 1 year in Paris. Mm-hmm. And I think to live in Paris, that was a kind of turning point again towards the freedom of color and independency of color.
Yes. It was very important because my dream as a child and later was Paris, you see. And it was impossible, and it came later in this 1973. And I achieved some of my dream later, 1973 in Paris, which I wanted the whole time when I was a child and later.
But when you were in Paris, you weren't so much in touch with youngsters of your age, a young artist of that time, but the most important experience, as far as I know, was the Louvre or the museums.
Yeah, but not so deeply, because I am not, searching in the museum like a worm.
No, not in that sense, but you always look for brothers
Yes, of course, of course.
And you found it in history sometimes.
Yes, there is some favorite.
Yeah.
See, for example, Soutine. Yes, and other painters. So that I hold since I was a young man.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that the German painters looked for their grandparents, and he looked for international grandparents, for painters like Soutine or Manet,
yes,
or Bonnard,
yes,
and Velázquez even.
Mm-hmm.
So he was looking to painters which handled color always in a very free manner, and in being able to develop an image of a face, an image of a face out of the gesture and out of color purely, and not depicting exactly a person or himself. There's a very, very important turnaround in Marwan's work. And the point is that mainly 95-98% he is painting himself. He even had a little piece of mirror sometimes in his hand,
yes,
where he could look, how is my nose looking from that side and from that side, but not depicting the nose. He depicted himself always, but not as a clear portrait, but as an inner portrait. And if you start to paint an inner portrait, then you never, never end. And getting older, you always have the reason to start again and again and again. Image. And that's so strange. If you would like to early photographs of yours, you recognize yourself. Other people sometimes don't. So we change constantly, biologically, psychologically. And so the painting, or there is a purpose for the painting, every day, again and again and again. And that is one of the reasons why Marwan got the attitude and habitude to repaint his paintings. He is working hard. He has painted thousands of paintings. But the result are 300, 400 paintings. All the other thousands of paintings are on the one and the same painting and repainting it again and again and again. Sometimes there are layers of color that thick, and you barely can wear it. Wear a painting, you need two persons sometimes, because there's so much color on it. And people like me and friends very often told him, "Oh, that has been so wonderful, why did you destroy it?" And sometimes he answers, "Well, where have you left your face 2 days ago?" We are constantly changing, and so the painting has to. And I had the chance several times to come in the studio to ask for a painting, which I admired last time, 4 weeks ago, and it wasn't there anymore. And Marwan always said, "Oh, it's there, it's there." Sorry for talking myself so much, I'll come to him back very soon. I'm the proud owner of a rather big painting, a bit smaller than that. And I'm living with it now already since more than 25 years. And I have made the observation that it changes color. In some lights, in the morning, very early morning or at noon, it's blue. And in other lights, it's brown. And sometimes it's shouting to me. And sometimes it tells me tender words. So, looking at it and living with it, it constantly changes. And sometimes faces appear and disappear, and another start coming up. And as your face of today cannot be explained then through your life, what you have had for experiences. Your face has become what it is today. But in it, it has all what you have lived. And so it is within his paintings. And if he discovers under pictorial aspects a point with which he is not satisfied, then he starts to make a little correction. Well, a little correction here needs a little correction there. And then needs a little correction there, and all of a sudden, oh, I have to repaint this part, and maybe a format like that, I turn and paint again, and all of a sudden, it's a square format head. That can happen too. Hast du alles verstanden, was ich erzählt habe über deine Malerei?
Ja.
Everything understood, so if he would not agree, he would have said something. Sometimes you could think it is boring to paint always faces, and mostly the own face. I won't call it boring, but exhausting. So he got the idea, for very few, not many, for very few still lifes. Because in the studio, there's always an apple or a lemon or a pot of tea. And so those things were so close to his life that he could paint them as well. But in English and in German, we say still life, still Leben. We don't say Naturmord, as in French. So the things and the objects are full of life, given life by Marwan and by his painting, or given with life in daily life and painting them as friends, as living objects. And from there is a very fantastic step he is doing, painting marionettes. He once got as a gift a marionette with a very strange face. And this hang around in his studio. And we'll put there, and all of a sudden it was there with a teapot. And it was a still life, but a human figure. So he could combine faces, images of the human body, and objects. And then he started to paint only the marionette. And a marionette is so wonderful. You can switch the arms and the legs, and you can turn it up and side and down, and you can do what you want. But you get the most fantastic expressions, especially if Marwan paints them. I've told him about your adventure with your marionette. Mm-hmm. Did you ever give a name to the marionette?
Marionette.
But painting marionettes and still lifes was kind of holidays and refreshing. To restart painting faces, images, and heads. And if you follow only the heads in the exhibition, not only here, but downstairs as well, you can see that he treats them very differently. Behind us, there's a painting as if he would have had a camera to go very close, filling the whole canvas. Only showing you a little corner of blue, but there's something behind it. But otherwise, he's very close. The strange thing is, if you go close to the painting, it disappears. It dissolves. If you're far away, you see it very precisely and clear. So the closest position falls together with the largest position. Far away, then it gets clear. If you get close, it disappears. which touches a very important point in Marwan's painting, which I have mentioned in a certain sense already, which is the appearance. That the painting or the image of the face can appear and disappear, can appear in that mood or in this mood. So there's a constant movement and life in it, constant changing, constant nature in a certain sense. But from this point, where he was in the 70s, if I'm right, 77, and here you can marvelously see how free color is, the red dot there. And in constantly changing, he can move the position of the nose, of the eyes. Sometimes there could be 4 eyes, or only 2 in the eyebrows, okay, if you want to have it naturally. But as the eye is wandering over the canvases, you can discover the eye here, the eye there, and it's always, with this as well, one eye is looking to you, and the other eye is looking inwards. That gives an image again for his search for himself, which he has started so early at the very beginning. Jetzt musst du auch mal wieder was sagen, Marwan. Jetzt hast du dich genug erholt. Now he must say something. Dann muss ich dich auf Deutsch fragen. Was ist das aus deiner Sicht, wenn du so nah an die Gesichter rangehst und plötzlich sind sie wieder Objekte wie da?
Ja, das ist...
What is it that here you are so close to the head, to the face, and there all of a sudden you have a distance again and see the whole head, once on top of the other?
Ja, und die Frage ist das...
Wie bist du da hingekommen und was bedeutet das für dich?
Ja, das ist Entdeckung, eine Reise, wo ich meinen Traum von Bild erfüllen konnte oder versuchen zu erfüllen.
It's an adventurous journey to follow this way, to come to this. That's where he was looking for his dream and for his dream of a painting and how he could fulfill his dream of that painting. As we are no more living together in Berlin, sometimes we call each other, and then he says, "Oh, I dreamed of a wonderful painting. I'll do it tomorrow." Ja? Hast du zu mir gesagt?
Ja.
Sind dir die Marionetten näher als die Köpfe?
Nein.
Are the marionettes closer to you than the heads? No.
Das ist ein Bild gleich. Also ob Marionette oder Kopf, es ist für mich ein Bild. Kein Unterschied. Es ist ein Bild.
For him it's no difference. It's one image. It's the same theme. It's the same way of painting. The same questions and disasters and hopes and dreams and same fulfillment. Mir fällt immer auf, dass du zwar Landschaften in deinen Köpfen hast, aber nie Raum eigentlich darstellst. It's astonishing that in your faces, in your heads, there are always landscapes to see, but you never show space in the sense of landscape. In your youth, you have painted, when you was very young, you have painted true landscapes.
It was yesterday.
That was yesterday. Would you ever paint a landscape, pure landscape, without a face?
I was very young, in the 20s or something like this, yes.
Yeah.
I went with the easel to the landscape and, yes. But it's very, very, very early. Very, very early.
And later on you would now more paint landscapes because they are in the faces.
It is a landscape. It is a landscape. It is the painting. It is the landscape. It is everything, and you can wander in the painting between the color, the form, and so on. And you can dream. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is not really a head like a head. It is something else, much more. Yeah. So if you see, for example, this painting or that, or so, you see what I do mean, and this reflection. The two heads, you see, and some of it coming from a touch with the nature, with an accident. Yes, I was in a city in Germany, and there was moor. You know what is in English moor? I don't know. Moor.
Moor, dump.
This
wet landscape. Wet landscape. Dump. You call it dump, no?
Yes.
Moor. Yeah.
It's landscape hotel, yeah, you see, still and forever. Right? Yes. And I was very touched with this landscape, and there was something like an island in the landscape getting, and there was reflection. And I was very touched with this landscape and coming to an idea of a paintings, and come such paintings, this left here, yes, with these two heads, reflection and so on.
This kind of landscape and this kind of heads is always very close to the idea of border, of limit,
yes,
which you pass through and coming to another level, no?
Yes, it is a great emotion, you see, to bring this landscape or this dream of landscape or myself in such a painting. Yes, it's not a portrait like a portrait. It is something else. It is a touching with the world. It is the whole thing. You see, do it from myself in canvas. You see, the painting, and I have this feeling since I was very, very young, giving myself to achieve that thing in a painting or a drawing. You see, very touchable. If it's drawing or etching or painting, it is something very emotional and something very existence. It is not just make it, it is but much more. It is much more. Achieving myself, the idea of life. Or
you're not only a great painter.
Thank you.
Sometimes I'm thinking of you as Paul Klee, only because Paul Klee once said the sentence, "Color has me." So you are overwhelmed by color and you have become a master of color. In expressive gestures, in working more architecturally, or in very transparent freedom. But you're a marvelous draftsman as well. And making drawings is very different to painting. Well, you sometimes make drawings and then you start to make a watercolor.
Yeah, there's something else, drawing something else, coming through your body, through the right hand, you see, and coming on the paper. It's something else and very touchable, yes, you see. It is not just like this, it's something giving yourself over the paper with the pen. It is something very important. For example, Abdurrahman Munif asked how I catch the wall, the pencil, yes. Yeah. And I didn't know. And I was drawing sometimes with him, and he laughed. He said, "I know now, because I have it been, in this way, catching it, coming from myself. It is not something cold. It's something very emotional coming from myself, yes."
But using drawing on your etchings, it's a kind of totally different field of this discipline.
Yes,
you tell us more about that.
Yes. Well, it is a metal. It's something very, very important to dive, you see, your feeling, what do you want in this metal, in this copper, and you come, it's something very It is not cool. It is something very alive, very, very important. And I was every time very touched with this etching, with this facing the metal.
Behind this door there's a kind of secret room full of etchings of 99 works on paper. And in order to create these 99 works, he stopped painting for nearly 2 years, I think, concentrating only on the etchings.
1 year.
1 year. And to control what he is doing, he has done the first prints himself, because there's a wonderful French printing machine, old one. And so he could control. So up till the very last line and appearance, he has controlled it, not just giving it to a printer. Tell us more about the 99 etchings.
Well, the first idea was to make 36 etching with the poem, you see. And then I was very touched with this work and very deeply touched and working day and day and day and day. And they come already 131. And I asked Kudelka what he think about Kudelka. He said, you have to all it, you see, 119 or so on. I said, no, 99. And 99 for the Arab, for the Muslim, is the 100 you find it in the head of light, the God, the light itself. Yes.
So the 199 represent the other 99 names of God?
Yes. Well, not like this, you know, that's making, and that is the back.
Was to create one etching like a prayer as well? Was it a prayer? Ein Gebet? Eine Radierung zu machen in diesem Sinne?
Yes, it is giving yourself, your feeling, your body, you know, through your hand and this metal. It is something very touching. It is not imitation for one drawing. No, it is itself. It is something different from drawing. Your confrontation with the metal, with the copper, you see. And it is something very exciting for me, and still very exciting for me, how to touch, to feel over the copper, you know, with this dry point and make this. It's something, it is not imitation for one build or a painting. It is itself the painting. It's something other but different. It's something different.
Looking at your etchings, I'm always so surprised how you can do all this without seeing it, because when you're working, you don't see the result.
Well, it is experience with the time.
With the time, with your mastership.
Anuk.
With your mastership, you get an idea how it might look like.
Yes.
No, but physically, he doesn't see what he's doing. Well, he sees an image, but if he prints it, it's the other way around, and what's dark becomes white, and vice versa. So the pictorial result, you have to control in printing it and then reworking it, as far as understood. But it's a miracle to do something which totally transforms itself, gets a metamorphose.
Yes, well, it is experience, you know, what you with that time, some kind of Ahnung, oder for Ahnung. And es ist sehr aufregend, wahnsinnig aufregend, denn diese Metall und auch dem Metall zu zeichnen und ein kleines bisschen Vorahnung oder Vorahnung, was kommt. Ne? Und da habe ich also sehr große Leidenschaft mit dem Radierung.
It's very, very exciting if you treat metal plate. You hurt the plate even, and you need a passion to do so, and you've got a vague idea what the result could be. That creates a big tension, which he likes a lot, and which makes it so different from painting, because if you are not content with the result, you repaint and start painting and painting again. But making the etchings, you don't know. You can make corrections, but before you have to print, and then you can see. But so it's a totally kind of witch kitchen, I would call it. A kitchen on which you create things which you cannot control, really. Wenn du so direkt auf die 99 Eigenschaften Gottes ansprichst, mit den 99 Blättern, kommt eine große arabische Kultur ganz sichtbar in deinem Werk. When he refers so directly with the 99 words or adjectives of God, then his huge background of his Arabic world comes back directly in his work. I don't think he has ever lost it in his work, but here it's very, very visible. Als ich das erste Mal mit dir in Damaskus war für mich die seltsame Erfahrung, dass deine Freunde in Damaskus dich hoch verehrten, aber Schwierigkeiten mit deinen Bildern hatten. Und in Berlin haben auch deine Freunde oft Schwierigkeiten mit deinen Bildern, weil die arabischen Freunde sehen das Europäische in deiner Malerei und die europäischen Freunde sehen das Arabische in deiner Malerei, auch wenn es ihnen vielleicht nicht bewusst ist. When the first time I visited Damascus together with Marwan, I was astonished at an exhibition that his closest friends had difficulties to understand his paintings. They have admired him deeply because of his long way, even getting a professorship at the Academy of the Arts in the Western world. But his paintings brought from there were strange to them. And in Berlin, it's the other way around. Or not only in Berlin, in Europe, it's the other way around. They like his painting, but something is strange in these paintings for Western eyes. So it shows them his place between two chairs, in between two chairs. Ist das ein Konflikt für dich, Marwan?
Das war nie ein Konflikt.
No conflict for him?
No. I did what I wanted to do, you see, and that is this or that, and it's my aim, and I am satisfied more or less of this work, you see. It is very, very difficult, but very light to achieve yourself in the band or as a point with the, you know, the identity of your, how seeing the world and achieve yourself in this world.
So you are in a very dangerous position, I think.
Yeah, it must be.
I mean, in that sense, that during the last 10 years or so, Western world finally has started to look more closer to Arabian art, to Arabian masters. But you're not an Arabian master.
No.
You're not a European master neither.
Well, no, I am painter.
You're a painter and just a master.
Yes. It is very dangerous and very, well, if you say you are an Arab artist, you are a German artist, and so on.
It's wonderful.
Maybe in 100 years it is something else.
It's wonderful that Marwan has his first solo exhibition in this institute here. But the danger is to consider him as an Arabian painter. You would make a great mistake. Even though he has a lot of success and resonance and exhibitions and collectors in the Arabian world. But they're only during the last 10 years as well. So all of a sudden they discover their master, but we have discovered our master. So he is very proud that the Tate Gallery has acquired a second painting and want to have a third on loan, especially for the new building up to come next year, I think, or end of this year. But as far as I understood, the bright people of the Tate will show him amongst Arabian painters.
Babur had a long time a great big painting from him.
Yeah, I come to that.
Yes, sorry.
So the bright Tate in the world of, wie heißt das? Weltgetraut, wie heißt das? Globalization, showing it only in the Arabian context is wrong. And I hope the Tate will learn. And not only look at the Arabian part or aspects of his painting. The Beaubourg has bought, Paris, Musée National d'Art Moderne, has bought a major early painting as well, before the Tate. And the Tate told me, well, they are building up a third world or non-European world painting collection as well. Poor Marwan. He doesn't belong, not to this, not to that. It's a huge point of freedom for you. You just have to look at his paintings. And you can learn a lot about human beings and about human experience. There's a German comic man, very famous comic man, died a long time ago, and he made this, Kurt Valentin, and he had this wonderful sentence: a stranger is strange only in the strange world. So, today I'm a stranger here in London. I consider myself as European, but nevertheless, Angelica is a stranger here. She's always reading on the streets if she has to the right or left, because she's a stranger. And if you think about your life yourself and about the experience with this way of painting, you don't care anymore either. You think about the spiritual aspect of the paintings. Maybe Marwan is not a strict Muslim, I don't really know, but he is a believing person. Bist du eigentlich Muslim oder nicht?
Ich bin Muslim, aber kein Muslim.
I'm Muslim, but not a Muslim, yes. I'm no member of no church, but I think I'm believing too.
So.
And sometimes one can learn that through your paintings. In our society, I think it's very strange if you show, hopefully it's a correct word, humbleness. You get humble, demütig, humble. World has become so fast. Everything is available. Everything you can buy and throw away. With that you can lose yourself. But if you get it humble for a moment, then you can get gratitude, then you can discover what life might give to you, or what it means to you. And I think with all his power and proudness to paint, he is showing images of humbleness as well. Ich finde, du machst sehr demütige Bilder. Stimmt das? In allem Stolz, in allem Glück zu malen? Nein?
Muss ich nachdenken.
I have to think about it if he's really painting humble paintings.
Yes, it's it is not my aim to make something very big and very great, and then it's the thing itself, you see.
Okay, with the things itself, we could make a little stop.